Okay, so here we are live once again with another Masters of the Universe Origins unboxing. We're almost done with these. This is the Cartoon Collection Faker. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I've still got one more Origins figure to open because the other day I just got in the Turtles of Grayskull, King Hiss. So we'll have him to open up. And then finally on to G.I. Joe, because I don't think I have any more Origins in the pipeline. I know I've got the Masterverse King Randor in my pile of loot, but I'm waiting on I'm waiting on Faker from Big Bad Toy Store, the one that I pre-ordered from them. Hang on, I'm gonna grab something real quick. All right. Should have grabbed this beforehand. All right. So, uh, yeah. I can do that separately from everything else. I don't really need to wait on that one any further. So, but yeah, the thing that's holding up my Big Bad Toy Store order is I'm waiting on them to get their shipment of these in, which apparently they still haven't gotten, or at least not the one that mine is in, because I'm still waiting on them to put Faker into my pile of loot. So it would really irritate me if I wouldn't just said, screw it, I'll go ahead and have send him in my pile of loot. And then the very next day, oh, we got your Faker in. Yeah, so I keep waiting around on that. I got this one off the Mattel collector website, Mattel Creations, and because I was ordering some other stuff and I saw they had one, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Go ahead and toss a Faker on there. Here's the piece of artwork on the back, and it says from the shaping staff, which I believe is the only cartoon that Faker ever appeared in. And as you can see on the cartoon, Faker just looked exactly like He-Man, except for he had glowing white eyes. And you can see this figure looks exactly like He-Man, except for it has glowing white eyes. But it comes with another head that's just a regular He-Man head. So a lot of people have just been using this going forward as their regular He-Man figure, and that's because apparently, and I don't know this for certain because I don't have the original cartoon collection He-Man, so you'll just have to forgive me if I'm inaccurate. And anybody who does have the cartoon collection He-Man, please let me know in the comments what you think. But a lot of people were saying that this was actually an improved version of He-Man because of a few various issues that the original He-Man figure had that this one now does not. But I think it would probably be good to have both because it would give you some extra heads to have, right? So this guy's got two heads, and they're both the same head sculpt. It looks like to me. We'll have a closer look once I get them out of the package. The only difference is the way that they're painted. And he does come with a comic book, which is the same comic book that Catra came with. And says on the back here, includes swappable heads and twist into powerful battle positions. And then there's a cross-all artwork, Faker, Leech, and Catra. So there's three figures in this wave, and not only are two of them members of the Evil Horde, but they're all three technically bad guys. Although, like I said, a lot of people have been just using this figure to be He-Man, and I'm going to use this figure to be He-Man because I don't have the cartoon collection version, the first cartoon collection version of He-Man, but I do have this one. I do have the one that I pre-ordered from Big Bad Toy Store if it ever comes in, and I've got one that I pre-ordered on Amazon with some gift cards if that ever comes in, because God knows I don't trust Amazon anymore. So while I'm glad I was able to get this figure from the Mattel Creations website, it's barely holding onto the package. So there's a little spot here, little spot of glue holding on it here. There's a whole lot of nothing all the way around to about, oh, where does the glue come loose on this? There's a little bit of glue here at the edge. and then a whole lot of nothing here, all the way to about right there. So yeah, this is what's holding this figure on the package. This right here and that little spot right there. So what is this thing doing? My computer is acting up. It's being stupid. All right, so let's go ahead and open them up. That should be easy. Oh, look at that. It actually wasn't glued on as well even as I thought. See those two little white spots? That's where this was glued on. It just came right off. So yeah, he's off the package now. That's pretty easy. Hang on, let me do something with my computer real quick since it's being all stupid. Keep having to restart my computer. It's irritating. All right, so Faker does come with a couple of accessories since he is basically a He-Man action figure. Of course, he comes with the Sword of Power. Because, like I said, I always think it's kind of lame when He-Man doesn't come with a sword. So there's that. And this is the same sculpt we've seen before with Skeletor and with Prince Adam. And I wanted to get Prince Adam. And it's a different color from Prince Adam's because He-Man's is actually a little bit of a lighter color and a little bit less opaque. It's got a little bit more of a translucent quality to it. It's not the same exact shade of silver. It's a brighter, shinier silver that He-Man's sword comes with. And then we have the swappable head, which of course fell on the floor. And it's a nice head sculpt of He-Man. It looks very much as he was drawn in the Filmation cartoons. And he's got that kind of grimace to his face like the vintage He-Man had. I don't think it's quite as Mona Lisa smile as the original vintage He-Man head, which is one of the things I like about it, where like they didn't quite capture it with the Origins head either, even though like it's a little closer. But the original He-Man had that expression on his face where like you can't quite tell if he's smiling or grimacing. It's a hard thing to capture, and I don't think like anybody really has yet in any other version. So usually just looks like he's grimacing. But in that original figure, if you look at him for certain angles, it looks like he could be smiling. And I really like that aspect of the original He-Man, and that's why that's one of my favorite sculpts of head sculpts of any action figure, not just He-Man, but it is absolutely my favorite head sculpt of He-Man. But of any action figure, I think that's one of my favorite head sculpts. The only real competitor with that is the original GI Joe, which one day I'll probably talk about that. All right, so got to get these. Got those rubber tabs, and I'm trying to be really careful about the ones around the bracers because I don't want to scratch the paint on his bracers. And there's Faker out of the package. Let's set him aside for the minute. And we've got one more accessory because we've got a full sheath for the power sword. Not usual for a He-Man action figure, but since this is based on the Filmation cartoon, and he definitely had a full sheath for his sword on that, we get one for this one. Daniel Evans is here, and he says, I'll go ahead and read the whole thing since you haven't been here in a while. It's good to see you again. He says, For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, for whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Judge not, lest ye be judged. One of my favorite lines from the Bible. And love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Well, I amended that a little bit. It just says, love your neighbor as yourself. But I guess I'm more used to the King James version. I think that was how they said in the King James version. It's been a while since I've read it. It's been a while since I read anything. I work so much and don't really have as much time for reading as I used to, unfortunately. All right, so here is He-Man out of the package. Well, Faker out of the package, and he's got those glowing eyes. So let's go ahead and swap, since, like I said, this is just going to be He-Man figure for me. Swap the heads. And there we've got the He-Man head. So now he's He-Man. And we can plug the sword sheath into the back here. You can see that there's a slit right above the tab. And this does come apart at the back, just like any old Masters Universe Origins He-Man. The armor usually comes apart at the back like that. So that's nothing new for Origins He-Man in general. But the original Filmation He-Man, the original cartoon collection He-Man, instead the armor came apart at two buckles at the side, and a lot of people didn't like that. So that was a problem with that version of He-Man. And they've corrected something else I've pointed out before on other cartoon collection figures, like Prince Adam here, for example. He basically just reused the regular Origins boots with the straps around them. You know how He-Man's boots were originally just kind of supposed to be kind of like bits of fur that he had tied around his legs, and this figure is no exception. But Faker actually just has solid boots, the way it was drawn on the Filmation cartoon. So that is definitely an improvement. So that's one of the reasons those are the two main reasons that I've heard people say that they like this better as a He-Man figure than the original He-Man figure. And the sheath is the same shade of plastic, even though it's a different type of plastic. Like you can hear, this is more of that sort of styrene kind of plastic. It's very hard plastic, whereas the rest of his harness is, as I demonstrated before, that kind of soft rubbery plastic. But this is very hard plastic, and it can fit this little. It's got a little tab, and it can fit into the back of his armor like so. And there we go. Now he's all put together as far as that goes. And we can put the Sword of Power into the sheath. There we go. And I believe that the shape of the sheath is changed somewhat in the newer figure versus the older one, and the sword fits in there a little more snugly, I think. So yeah, that's how all that fits together. And then of course he can put the Sword of Power into his hand, and now he's ready for action. Now, one thing that people have complained about with this one, that they could have easily done this, and I don't really blame them for being upset about it, is Prince Adam has this awesome held aloft by magic sword kind of hand, where you see it's hinged vertically instead of horizontally. And I think they should have done that with Faker also, so that he could hold the sword aloft. And granted, I don't know, it's Faker. He probably doesn't really need to the way He-Man would. But like I said, a lot of people are just going to use this figure as He-Man. And Mattel's got to know that a lot of people are just going to use this figure as He-Man. So why not just go ahead and do that? But, thankfully, some of us were lucky enough to get an extra Prince Adam figure. Like, I got one that was on clearance that was marked down. So I've got an extra one. So I can use that extra hand on my Prince Adam. And that was kind of what I got that for in the first place, was so I could use that as an extra hand for He-Man. But also, I like the color better of the sword on Prince Adam. I kind of feel like it would have been better if it was the other way around, actually. If Prince Adam had come with the more lighter, kind of almost translucent kind of silver, like I can see the light coming through it if I hold it up to like where my phone and computer screen is. But since that would be while he's transforming, and it would be charged with some power, then that way it would be a little more glowy, you know what I mean? But it's not a bad color for the sword. It looks fine. Like I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but I do kind of feel like it would have been better the other way around, and I do like the other sword color better. That's just me. That's just my personal preference. You might feel a completely different way once you get it in your hot little hands. But yeah, he's got the classic Filmation style He-Man armor, where we see it doesn't have the squares on the top straps, and the Iron Cross is a little more simplified. It's basically like, the four triangle pieces meeting in the middle with like the little dot in the middle where they meet, so it doesn't have like the extra detailing that the original toy version had. Uh, you can see he doesn't have any studs on his belt. It's just a plain smooth belt. No studs on the bracers, just plain smooth bracers. And like I said, he's got the regular boots. Thankfully, they do still have a decent furry texture to the boots. I think it might be just a little more simplified, just a little less detailed than the original boots. But they're not like kind of blobby looking. They've got like sharp ends, and they look nice. And he's still got the full furry texture on the shorts, which I like. One of the things that bothered me about the Four Horsemen's take on the Filmation characters is they tended to just like smooth over all the fur texture because that was how it was drawn on the cartoon. But I even though I felt like it was technically accurate to how it was drawn on the cartoon, I felt like it wasn't really accurate to the intent, because we knew it was supposed to be furry, but if you take all the texture off of it, it winds up just looking kind of blobby, and it doesn't have the fur look like it should have. So I'm glad that they still have like the full texture of the fur as far as this version of He-Man goes. So let's take the sword out of his hand and we'll put it in the sheath. And since this sheath is such hard plastic, I am kind of a little concerned that the sword might get kind of scuffed when it's in there, but that doesn't seem to have been a problem so far. So hopefully I'm just being paranoid. So let's see. Articulation wise, Faker can look up about that far, look down about that far, tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate his head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders, and they move up about that far. This is the typical cartoon collection body, so we shouldn't expect too many surprises with this. This is as basic as it gets, and he's not gonna have any armor or anything for his arms or his legs to bump into, so he should be fine. He's got a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which bends in about that far, rotates all the way around. He's got a single joint of articulation at the wrist, which rotates all the way around, as I pointed out before. Has a horizontal hinge. It'd be nice if it had a vertical hinge here, but it doesn't, unfortunately. He can rotate all the way around at the waist, and he can kick up about that far, which is not very far as action figures go, but, He-Man's kind of muscle bound. That's just how it's going to be. He can do the splits, no problem. Maybe not quite as gracefully as some figures, but he can do it. Got a single joint of articulation at the knee. That's about how far that bends in, and it rotates all the way around. He's got a boot cut that rotates all the way around. His foot points down about that far. His foot points up about that far and rotates all the way around. So since I have the cartoon collection version of Skeletor here, I want to compare something real quick. Is that, as I suspected, these are the same feet that Skeletor has, which makes sense because they're just plain boot feet. They don't really need a whole lot of detail to them as far as as far as anything goes. They're just kind of plain booty sock feet. Actually, come to think of it, they're probably not too different from what we have on Beastman. They might be the same feet that Beastman has. I think they're the same feet that the original Origins Beastman has. But it makes sense on these guys because they're actually wearing boots. Beastman needs to have toes. I'm sorry. That's one thing that's just unforgivable to me, is that Beastman didn't have toes. And it was bad enough on the first time, but like I said, when I opened up that Turtles of Grayskull figure, I was like, man, that could have been something that could have made this figure a little bit more worth buying, is if he had some actual toes. But he doesn't. But yeah, I can't believe I never noticed that before. He's got the same feet as Beastman. Skeletor has the cartoon collection Skeletor has the same feet as the regular Origins Beastman. Which means he probably has the same feet as the regular cartoon collection Beastman, because he's wearing boots. But that makes more sense, because he's actually supposed to be wearing boots. Anyway, this is a really cool figure, and I'm definitely glad I was finally able to get my hands on a cartoon collection version of He-Man, even if he's technically Faker. One thing that would have been nice, I think, with this figure that they didn't do is if they somehow could have acknowledged the original Faker figure and done the sticker in the chest somehow. Now, granted, He-Man's armor is a bit smaller than Skeletor's, and you would want it to completely cover the sticker, unlike how Skeletor's doesn't actually completely cover the sticker, because it's not supposed to be immediately obvious that this guy is a robot double, but they could have done like a smaller version of it printed underneath. Like, I know they didn't show that on the cartoon, but they also didn't not show it on the cartoon. You know what I mean? It's not like it it absolutely was not there. We just never saw it. So I think it would have been nice to go ahead and print that on there. And if you're like me and you're going to use this figure as your regular He-Man figure anyway, just don't take off the armor. Or if it bothers you that much, get a little bit of Brasso and a Q-tip and just rub that sucker off, and then that's the end of that. There's a clip for people to take out of context, huh? But yeah, if you're like me, you're probably going to wind up using this as a regular He-Man figure anyway. And if you're really like me, you probably ordered multiples so you can still use one as Faker. So when I do get a second one in, this is going to be the head that's on that one permanently, and that's just going to be my Filmation Faker figure. Now, apparently, from what I understand, there were plans that at some point Faker would have returned and he would have looked more like the original action figure where he would have the blue skin and the red hair and the orange or Skeletor armor. Maybe it would have been pink in that version. I don't know. But and there actually is a cartoon that somebody made. I'm not sure who made it, if it's like an official production or if it's just fan made. But there is a cartoon you can find on YouTube called The Return of Faker, where He-Man does indeed uh, encounter the toy accurate version of Faker. I think he had pink armor in that version. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Next episode, I'm going to be back to open up Turtles of Grayskull, King Hiss. We're going to have a lot to say about that figure, and I'm pretty excited to talk about him and get into all that. And then that's going to be it for Masters Universe for a while. I've been doing Masters Universe for like 2 months now, and as much as I love Masters Universe and I could talk about it forever, it's I got other stuff I got to talk about on this channel. Like we've been neglecting too much other stuff. I got too much GI Joe to go over, and I haven't talked about GI Joe in months. So I got my GI Joe fix is acting up, so I got to get on to some GI Joe, and then we got more DC stuff to cover. So I might slot King Hiss somewhere in between there, just so I can get that out of the way, or I might try to maybe do him right before I do GI Joe. I haven't decided yet. I guess it would make more sense to do him before GI, just get it out of the way, and then I can move on to GI Joe. But like I said, I don't have that much more in the pipeline as far as my pre-orders go when it comes to Masters of the Universe. I just got that King Randor that's in my pile of loot. So and I can just do that one separately. I don't mind doing that one separately because I'm gonna have to wait on him for a while anyway. So anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Faker, both this figure and the character in general. And are you going to use this figure as just use them as He-Man? I know a lot of people are. So, or you can mix and match parts with the original cartoon collection He-Man if you so choose. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.